Bernie Sanders says U.S. should confiscate 100% of any money Americans make above $999 million. They can survive just fine. What do you think?
So maybe someone can try to explain this a bit. Would this apply to the value of the company stock? Because to my knowledge, most of the people in this category don't actually take home $1 billion plus in cash into their checking.
Correct. A lot of the very wealthy have a decent amount of their value in stocks, and it would be tricky to include that. They only get taxed when selling them. Edit. There can be taxes when getting the stocks. As compensation depending on how it is done, they still are able to borrow against those stocks as they grow by more and borrow against that, but they do take out loans with the stock as collateral. That isn't treated as income and is not taxed. They keep taking out larger loans to pay off the previous ones until eventually they cash out, or more likely, they do it until they die. Really, the whole system needs to be overhauled to discourage some of the insane amounts of wealth and resource hoarding that is going on. Doing something like taxing at 100% after a certain level probably wouldn't be able to be applied to lots of these practices for reasons plenty others are pointing out. Ultimately, we need a system that encourages them to pay their workers more and essentially spend more of their profits. I see how just cutting them off at a certain point sounds like it would work, but I doubt it would. Edit. Here is a solid article on this practice. Edit. As others have pointed out, this is just one of many ways they can avoid taxes and continue to generate more wealth. Edit. Also, the comment from Bernie is being taken pretty out of context. No one is seriously proposing we confiscate the wealth of anyone with over $1 billion.
Bernie said, tax them 100% above $1 billion, not liquid cash. I pay about 30–40% of my paycheck goes poof before I even see it. That is more than Netflix paid the entire 2022. So the $400 they take out of my check is more than billionaires and their companies pay. Fuck it. Charge them.
They twist the words taxed at 100% from a quote that he didn't actually say. Simply put, this is false information. Are you essentially arguing that the government should seize the remaining funds until you reach $999 million? Matthews turned to the independent U.S. Senator from Vermont, who also caucuses with Democrats, and helped them win a narrow majority in the upper house of Congress. Yes, Sanders affirmed, you may disagree with me, but that's okay. I believe people can survive on $999 million. They can survive perfectly fine, in my opinion. He hasn't even called for or proposed a tax. He's merely responding with a shrug to the interviewer's ridiculous assertion. Almost no one on the planet reports having $1 billion annual income. This is all contained in multiple assets. Bernie merely shrugged off a crude and perhaps laden remark, and now everyone is working up a fuss about how Bernie wants a 100% tax. He hasn't actually said that. His policy perspective, or the viewpoint he expresses in that interview, is a return to tax rates as they were under Eisenhower, which is entirely logical.
The entire tax system needs to be revamped. The middle class pays more of a burden than the billionaires do. It's ridiculous. Of course, that is just a political slogan by Bernie, and it is not the practical implementation of the idea. But they do need to apply taxes to the giant global megacorporations in an effective way. We know from the Panama Papers how extremely common it is for any wealthy people to hide their money from income taxes, and you don't have to be super rich to do this. So the solution needs to be on how the very wealthy interact with society in the USA, with taxes on land, with a generous lower limit exemption, and on consumption. Taxes on your second yacht should be pretty high. And hey, as a fun idea, how about if the super wealthy contributes a huge amount to politics or super PAC, then they have to match it with a tax payment. If they take a SCOTUS justice on lavish million-dollar vacations, they match that with a tax payment, etc.
I'll never understand why someone's 1 in 100 million chance of becoming a billionaire is more important to them than a guarantee of a basic social structure that helps everyone get a more fair shot. Edit. A lot of people have offered the counterpoint that this argument is incomplete at best and misleading at worst, and I concede to a point. The majority of people against taxing the ultra-wealthy that I know have spoken about their mistrust of the government. That mistrust and what about the government they don't trust is a separate and much deeper conversation to me. See, this is why I left Facebook for Reddit. I would have just been hit with parroted talking points or cheap insults. Here, I'm given plenty to think about.